The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from the hospital, the wipers on my old Volvo working overtime. I am Florian, 43, an emergency room doctor in Seattle. It's a demanding job, but I find it rewarding knowing I am making a difference. Lately, though, the long hours and constant stress had started to take their toll, not just on me, but on my marriage to Gisela. We'd been together for 15 years, married for 10. I thought we were happy. We had a comfortable life, a beautiful home overlooking Puget Sound and two wonderful children, 8-year-old Linus and 6-year-old Freya. Gisela was a graphic designer working from home, which allowed her to be there for the kids. She was always organized, efficient, and seemed to handle everything with ease. But over the past few months, I'd noticed a change in her. She seemed distant, preoccupied. Our conversations had become superficial, filled with logistics rather than genuine connection. She was often on her phone, texting or scrolling through social media, and she'd quickly turn the screen away if I came near. I tried to talk to her about it, but she'd brush it off, saying she was just stressed with work or tired. I wanted to believe her, but a nagging feeling persisted. It was a sense of unease, a subtle shift in the atmosphere between us. I started paying closer attention, noticing things I'd previously overlooked. The late-night calls she'd take in the hallway, her hushed tone barely audible. The way she'd dress up, even when she wasn't going anywhere special. The new perfume she'd started wearing, a scent I didn't recognize. The rain intensified as I pulled into our driveway. I killed the engine and sat there for a moment, gathering myself. I was exhausted both physically and emotionally. I dreaded going inside, not knowing what kind of reception I'd receive. But I couldn't avoid it forever. I took a deep breath and opened the car door. As I walked through the front door, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Usually the kids would be clamoring for my attention, eager to tell me about their day. Gisela would be in the kitchen preparing dinner, the aroma of garlic and herbs filling the air. But tonight there was nothing, just an eerie silence that amplified my growing sense of dread. Gisela, Linus, Freya, I called out, my voice echoing through the empty rooms. No answer. I checked the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. All empty. A note on the kitchen counter caught my eye. It was written in Gisela's familiar handwriting. Florian, I've taken the kids to my mother's. I need some time to think. I'll call you later. Gisela, my heart sank. Time to think. What did that mean? Why would she take the kids without telling me? My mind raced, conjuring up all sorts of scenarios. Had we had a fight? Did she need space to consider our relationship? Or was there something more sinister at play? I tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I left a message, my voice trembling with anxiety. Gisela, please call me back. I am worried. What's going on? What do you need to think about? Please just tell me. Hours passed and still no word from her. I paced the house, unable to sit still. I replayed our recent conversations in my mind, searching for clues, for any indication of what might have prompted her sudden departure. But I came up empty. Everything seemed normal, at least on the surface. As the night wore on, my anxiety turned into anger. How could she do this to me? How could she leave me in the dark, wondering what was going on? I felt betrayed, abandoned. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had suddenly become a stranger. Around midnight, I finally fell asleep on the couch, exhausted and emotionally drained. But my sleep was restless, filled with nightmares and fragmented images of Gisela walking away from me, her face obscured by shadows. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my phone ringing. It was Gisela. Florian, she said, her voice flat and emotionless. I need to talk to you. Can you meet me at the coffee shop downtown? What's going on, Gisela? I asked, my voice laced with desperation. Why did you leave? What do you need to think about? I'll explain everything when I see you, she said. Just meet me at the coffee shop in an hour. She hung up before I could say anything else. I rushed to get ready, my mind racing with possibilities. I tried to prepare myself for the worst, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Gisela was already there, sitting at a table by the window. She looked pale and drawn, her eyes red and puffy. I sat down across from her, my heart pounding in my chest. What is it, Gisela? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What's going on? She took a deep breath and looked me in the eye. I've been having an affair, she said, her voice barely audible. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The room started to spin. I stared at her in disbelief, trying to process what she had just said. Affair, I repeated, my voice trembling. What are you talking about? Who? It's dieter, she said, her voice cracking. My business partner, dieter, my friend. He was a client of Gisela's too. We'd known him for years. We'd had dinner with him and his wife countless times. How could she do this? How could they do this, dieter? I said, my voice rising in anger. You're having an affair with dieter. Are you kidding me? It just happened, she said, tears streaming down her face. We started working closely together and we just connected. I know it's wrong, Florian. I am so sorry, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Is that all you have to say? You've been lying to me for months, sneaking around behind my back, and all you can say is sorry. I didn't want to hurt you, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I was going to tell you, but I didn't know how. How? I said, my voice rising even louder. How could you not know how? You just tell me the truth. You tell me you've been sleeping with my friend. You tell me you've been betraying me for months. I stood up, knocking over my chair in the process. People in the coffee shop were staring at us, but I didn't care. I was beyond caring. I can't believe you did this, Gisela, I said, my voice shaking with rage. I can't believe you betrayed me like this. I thought we had something special. I thought we loved each other. Do love you, Florian, she said, her voice pleading. I still love you, I don't know what happened. I made a mistake. Mistake? I said, my voice filled with scorn. This isn't a mistake, Gisela. This is a deliberate act of betrayal. You've destroyed everything we had. You've destroyed our family. I turned and walked out of the coffee shop, leaving her sitting there alone, her tears falling onto the table. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I needed to get away from her, from dieter, from the lies and the betrayal. I drove aimlessly for hours, the rain still coming down, blurring my vision. I replayed the conversation with Gisela in my mind, trying to make sense of it all. How could she do this to me? How could she throw away everything we had built together for a fleeting moment of passion with another man? The pain was unbearable. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly alone. The woman I loved, the woman I had trusted with my heart, had shattered it into a million pieces. As the day wore on, my anger began to subside, replaced by a deep sense of sadness. I realized that my marriage was over. There was no going back. The trust had been broken, and I couldn't see any way to repair it. I knew I had to tell the kids. They deserved to know the truth, even though it would break their hearts. I drove to Gisela's mother's house, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. When I arrived, Gisela was waiting for me on the porch. She looked even more distraught than she had at the coffee shop. Please, Florian, she said, her voice pleading. Let me explain. Let me try to fix this. There's nothing to fix, Gisela, I said, my voice cold and emotionless. You've already broken it beyond repair. I just want to see the kids. She nodded and led me inside. Linus and Freya ran to me, their faces lighting up with joy. I hugged them tightly, trying to hold back my tears. Daddy, are you okay? Linus asked, his brow furrowed with concern. I'm fine, buddy, I said, forcing a smile. I just wanted to see you. I spent the next hour playing with the kids, trying to act normal, trying to shield them from the pain and turmoil that I was feeling inside. But I could see the confusion in their eyes, the unspoken questions that they were too young to understand. As I was leaving, I knelt down and looked them in the eye. Linus, Freya, I said, my voice trembling. Mommy and Daddy are going to be living in different houses now, but it's not your fault. We both love you very much and will always be your parents. They started to cry and I held them close, my own tears streaming down my face. It was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. I drove home in a daze, my heart aching with sadness. I knew that my life would never be the same again. My marriage was over, my family was broken, and I was facing an uncertain future alone. But as I sat in my empty house, surrounded by the ghosts of my past, I realized that I had a choice to make. I could wallow in my pain and despair, or I could pick myself up and start rebuilding my life. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew I had to do it for myself and for my children. The next few weeks were a blur. I consulted with a lawyer, filed for divorce, and started the process of dividing our assets. It was a painful and acrimonious process, filled with accusations and recriminations. Gisela was angry and defensive, blaming me for her affair, claiming that I had neglected her and driven her into dieter's arms. I knew that her accusations were baseless, but I didn't argue. I just wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible. I agreed to a settlement that was generous to her, even though I knew it wasn't fair. I just wanted to move on with my life. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, I struggled to cope with the emotional fallout. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and I couldn't concentrate at work. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the next blow to fall. I started seeing a therapist who helped me to process my emotions and develop coping strategies. She encouraged me to focus on my own well-being, to take care of myself both physically and emotionally. I started exercising regularly, eating healthy, and spending time with friends. I also started pursuing hobbies that I had neglected over the years, such as painting and playing the guitar. Slowly but surely, I began to heal. One evening, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a call from Dieter's wife, Isolde. I hadn't spoken to her since the affair had come to light. I hesitated before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Florian," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you. Can you meet me somewhere?" I agreed to meet her at a park near my house. When I arrived, she was sitting on a bench, her face buried in her hands. "Isolde, what's wrong?" I asked. Sitting down beside her, she looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "Dieter left me," she said, her voice cracking. "He left me for Gisela." I stared at her in disbelief. "What?" I said. "He left you for Gisela? I thought they were in love." "They were," she said, her voice filled with bitterness. "But it didn't last. They fought all the time. He said she was too demanding, too controlling. He couldn't take it anymore, so he left her." I asked. "No," she said. "She left him. She said he was a loser, that he couldn't provide for her the way she wanted. She said she was going to find someone better." I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Gisela and Dieter had destroyed my life, and now they had destroyed each other's. It was a small consolation, but it was enough to bring a smile to my face. "I'm sorry, Isolde," I said, my voice filled with genuine sympathy. "I know what you're going through. It's not easy." "Thank you, Florian," she said, wiping away her tears. "I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel so lost and alone." "You're not alone," I said, putting my arm around her. "I'm here for you. We can get through this together." So Isolde and I became friends. We supported each other through our respective heartbreaks, sharing our stories and offering each other comfort and encouragement. Over time, our friendship blossomed into something more. We discovered that we had a lot in common, and we enjoyed spending time together. We laughed, we cried, and we shared our hopes and dreams for the future. One day, as we were walking hand in hand through the park, I stopped and looked her in the eye. "Isolde," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "I've fallen in love with you." She smiled and leaned in to kiss me. "I've fallen in love with you too, Florian," she said. And so I found love again, with someone who understood my pain and shared my values. We built a new life together, filled with love, trust, and mutual respect. Gisela, on the other hand, continued to drift from one relationship to another, never finding lasting happiness. She had burned her bridges and alienated her friends and family. She was alone and miserable. I often wondered if she ever regretted her affair, if she ever realized the damage she had caused. But I didn't dwell on it. I had moved on with my life, and I was happier than I had ever been. One day, I received a letter from Gisela. It was a long and rambling letter, filled with apologies and recriminations. She admitted that she had made a mistake, that she had thrown away the best thing that had ever happened to her. She begged me to forgive her and give her another chance. I read the letter with a mixture of emotions. I felt a pang of sadness for the woman I had once loved, but I also felt a sense of relief that I had escaped her toxic influence. I wrote back to her, telling her that I forgave her but that I couldn't give her another chance. I had moved on with my life and I was happy with Isolde. I wished her well, but I couldn't be a part of her life any longer. I sealed the letter and dropped it in the mailbox, feeling a sense of closure. I had finally put the past behind me, and I was ready to embrace the future with open arms. As I walked back to my house, hand in hand with Isolde, I smiled. I had lost everything, but I had also gained everything. I had learned the true meaning of love, trust, and forgiveness, and I was grateful for the journey, even though it had been filled with pain and heartache. I knew that Gisela's betrayal would always be a part of my story, but it wouldn't define me. I had emerged from the ashes stronger and more resilient than ever before, and I was ready to face whatever the future held, with Isolde by my side. Years passed, and my life with Isolde continued to flourish. We got married, blended our families, and created a loving and supportive home for our children. Linus and Freya adored Isolde, and she treated them like her own. Gisela remained a distant figure, occasionally reaching out to the kids but never fully re-entering their lives. She seemed to be trapped in a cycle of unhappiness, unable to find peace or contentment. I often thought about the choices we make in life, and how they can have such profound and lasting consequences. Gisela's choice to betray me had not only destroyed our marriage, but it had also damaged her own life in ways that she could never have imagined. I was grateful that I had been able to find happiness again, despite the pain and heartache I had endured. And I was committed to making the most of my second chance, to cherishing the love and happiness that I had found with Isolde. One sunny afternoon, as I was sitting on my porch, watching Linus and Freya play in the yard, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I said. "Florian." A weak voice said on the other end. I recognized the voice immediately. "It was Gisela." "Gisela," I said, my voice filled with surprise. "What do you want?" "I'm sick, Florian," she said, her voice barely audible. "I have cancer, and I don't have anyone else to turn to." My heart sank. Despite everything that had happened, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. "I'm sorry to hear that, Gisela," I said, my voice softening. "What can I do?" "I need help, Florian," she said. "I need someone to take care of me. Can you please help me?" I hesitated for a moment, weighing my options. I had moved on with my life and I was happy with Isolde, but I couldn't turn my back on someone in need, especially someone who had once been a part of my life. "See what I can do, Gisela," I said. "I'll talk to Isolde and see if we can figure something out." I hung up the phone and walked inside, my mind racing. I knew that Isolde wouldn't be happy about this, but I hoped that she would understand. After all, she had been through a similar experience with Dieter. I sat down with Isolde and told her about Gisela's phone call. As expected, she was hesitant at first, but after hearing my reasons, she agreed to help. "I know it's not easy, Florian," she said, her voice filled with understanding. "But I know that you're doing the right thing. We can't turn our backs on someone in need." So we took Gisela in. We set up a room for her in our house and provided her with the care and support she needed. It wasn't easy, but we did it out of compassion and a sense of duty. Gisela was grateful for our help, and she slowly began to heal both physically and emotionally. She apologized for her past mistakes and expressed her remorse for the pain she had caused. I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I needed to let go of the anger and resentment that I had been carrying for so long. As Gisela's health improved, she began to reconnect with her children. Linus and Freya were overjoyed to have their mother back in their lives, and they spent as much time with her as possible. Eventually, Gisela recovered from her cancer and was able to move out of our house and live on her own. She found a new job, made new friends, and started to rebuild her life. I was proud of her for overcoming her challenges and finding happiness again. And I was grateful that we had been able to put the past behind us and move forward with our lives. Looking back on my journey, I realized that betrayal and heartbreak are a part of life. They can be incredibly painful and devastating, but they can also be opportunities for growth and transformation. I had learned that forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others, but about freeing ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment. And I had learned that love can be found again, even after the most devastating losses. And so, I continued to live my life with Isolde, cherishing every moment and grateful for the love and happiness that we had found together. And I never forgot the lessons I had learned from Gisela's betrayal, lessons that had made me a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person.